Hi, it's Sean Haynes of the Ag Center, giving you a weekly update on commodities and prices here in California. This week, calf prices came off again on the beef on dairy cross calves down to $13.50. They were as high as $16.50. Holstein bull calves now at $700, and Jersey beef cross calves at $750. Overland sale came back in these 450 weights last week. Sales were off about anywhere from 30 to 50 cents, about 5.10 average for 4.5 weight steers. Kind of the pushback from the market, a lot of these comments from Argentina bringing beef into the U.S., higher ground prices as well, kind of make consumer push back a little bit, and the board kind of pushing itself down, which has affected cash price a little bit. A lot of sentiment on stuff that hasn't really happened yet, but it's really kind of messed the markets up a little bit. And at that $16.50 rate, like I said, I don't think the calf raisers were making any money at that, and coming back down to $13.50 puts them back in profitability again. Now the real big push is going to see if they can make some changes to the industry that gets the packers back to profitability, who are really not finding enough cattle to run at. They're running plants about 77%. They need to really be running at 85%. When they're inefficient like that, they lose money on the overhead. So they're going to start closing plants down or find cattle to bring in from someplace else. The other conspiracy side of my theory is that with MCOOL changing, a lot of folks don't know about that, with the country of origin label changing in January this year, where they're kind of forcing the beef industry to go back to actually labeling product from the country it comes from. Right now you can bring in carcasses from Argentina and then cut them here and still call them U.S. beef. I think with that change, I think some of these packers are pushing the government to kind of bring some additional meat in here so they don't have to put that label on it and go through all those regulatory costs of what that's going to entail when it comes through. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. On the dairy side, dairy prices continue to slump off a little bit. Again, no real data changing hands. A lot of sentiment on what's happening with milk coming into the system. Just, not a whole lot more cattle, but the genetics and the care of the cattle continue to get better. Guys continue to figure out how to feed them and make advantage of those genetics they're putting into the cattle. So you've got high components in the milk coming through, which means you yield more product per hundredweight produced, and all that kind of is flowing through the industry. At the same time, you've got this kind of slumping off of demand a little bit, and it's squeezing the benefit between us and the EU. We would really been priced well below the EU for quite a while. We're shipping a lot of goods out, especially cheese. The EU's kind of cramped up, about 6% increase in production over the past 6 months, and producing a lot of product, which is bringing prices down there and kind of killing our export market, and all that's making people worry. We'll have new data coming out. The USDA has come out and said they'll have their report for September production out on November 10th, with a follow-up production report for October on November 27th or 17th. Once those come out, we'll have some hard data at least to look at as far as production goes and what the inventories are doing. But despite all that, prices are in the red. We're looking at $14.95 average price for the next 6 months. The next 2 to 3 months being the worst in the low 14 to mid 14 range. And then again, like I always like to mention, because I'm standing with these guys, the CDI operators are still suffering another $2.50 per hundredweight off of that while that co-op goes through their issues. Almond prices continue to inch up. Not a whole lot of changes lately. The industry is waiting to see if this almond crop comes off. It's been kind of wet conditions on the ground. They're trying to dry these nuts off to be able to collect them. They're not really drying that well because of the weather's not cooperating. But once we kind of have a better read on this crop when it comes in, whether it's a 2.7, 2.8 crop versus the 3 billion pounds that was projected, it's going to move prices in one way or other. I as well as a lot of people think it's going to move up another 10 to 15 cents to get pretty close to $3 on the high end 22 AOL almonds on the non-Purell side, and then kind of falter down through there with an average price like $2.65, $2.70 this year. If that all comes in, we'll be looking great. So that's what I got this week on commodity markets. Thanks.